I've been collecting camping stoves for some time now. Every time I see one, I have to have it. I want to restore it. I want to see if it runs, see what it can do, and just kind of marvel at our ability to design products way back in time and how things were put together. I guess you could say I'm a bit of a camping stove connoisseur. I really enjoy them, and it's a nice little hobby of mine that's not too expensive, and I can sit in here in my garage and kind of tinker with something and just play with it. But recently, my wife really came through. She found this at a yard sale or something like that. It's a 1945 military issue World War II stove. So let's take a look, see if we can get this thing running. And here it is, the 1945 World War II stove. Now what's really cool about this one, it comes with a canister. The canisters they're kind of hard to find, especially if you try to buy the stove online. When I looked, you don't get them as complete as this, which is really cool. You can see I left the tag on here. Helen paid $40 right at the swap meet, I guess, which is, I thought was a pretty good deal considering what we have. So let's open it up and take a look. Sometimes this is a little tough, but I guess we'll give it the benefit of the doubt because it's its age, right? There we go. And look at that burner top. That is so cool. I want to show you this too. Look how tight that fits in that container. There was no wiggle room in here. They would not want much rattling going on. That was built right. Okay, so we are greeted with, we'll just walk around the stove real quick. We're greeted with some precautions. Basically, these are instructions on how to care for it if you're using certain kind of fuels, what you need to do with the valves and such. Really, really cool. And we can tell it's definitely of the era because they talk about using leaded fuel, which is cool. We have some stickers here that tell you how to use it, all these upright supports, on and off valve, of course. If I could find replacement stickers here, I would look at restoring the whole stove, but without that, I'm just gonna leave it as is. Our pump, because again, we're gonna run white gas in here. This is really cool, the funnel. The funnel is on a chain. You can't lose it, right? And same thing with the cap. To fill the tank, the cap is on a chain too. That was really important back then, right? You have to think, if this was designed to go to war, you didn't want your guys losing these pieces. So putting these pieces on like a simple piece of chain so you can't be lost in the field was such a smart design. We don't have that kind of design on stoves today. Stoves today, you take a piece off and you lose it pretty easily because they're not tethered to it. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing I did notice, we'll see if we can slip it out. We actually have to disassemble the stove a little bit. There's your burner grate. How cool. Nice big burner grate. All those supports. Super neat. One other thing that, like I mentioned, that this stove comes with, let me see if I can get this out of here, is it actually has a spot to store spares. So it's field maintenanceable, which is pretty neat. So we take this burner, I'm going to call it a burner cup. It looks like a jet, really, to be honest. Kind of neat. You know what this is reminiscent of, which is really odd? The, what is it? The MSR, like Whisper lights, or like the Dragonfly. The Dragonfly looks like it copied that design almost almost identical in my mind, but a lot lighter metal. Definitely not as heavy as this. This is thick stuff right here. But I found this out when I was kind of looking around it. Check this out here. This is where they stored the spares, and it looks like the spares were never used. We have packing, we have a cleaner needle shoved right in here. I'm not going to pull it out because it's very, very delicate. And we have some graphite packing, some little parts, basically everything you need to, basically everything you need to maintenance this in the field if you absolutely had to. So cool. Look at these, look at this packing. There's the cleaner needle. Isn't that cool? And there's your little packing. I think you got 3 or 4 of them. So neat. We'll just stick that back in there for safekeeping. Awesome. Okay. So that's it about the stove, really. Well, that's our walk around of the stove. Now let's see if we can get it to run. So with these stoves, what I found out, if we do a little research, I know that this one right here, this is not a Coleman stove, right? This is actually called an AGM stove. I believe that stands for American Gas Company, if I remember correctly. And they produce these alongside of Coleman. And the way you can kind of tell is this guy has 3 feet. And Coleman's typically have 4. Also, from what I understand, the Coleman tanks are steel, and some of them are brass, but we know this one is not Coleman. Basically, well, the tank right here just says U.S. American on it, right there. It might be hard for you guys to see, but it says U.S. American. If this was a Coleman, it would say Coleman on it. But I believe this tank is brass, which is pretty neat. It means the internals are a lot likely less to rust. But from what I understand, we have to be very careful with this tank because they're a lot more likely to crack than than the Coleman counterpart or the steel counterpart. So there's that. So when we're going through a stove like this, the first thing I like to do is pull the pump out. And again, filled surfaceable right here. We can easily unscrew this and take it out and see what it looks like. And this is an interesting setup here. I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is the original setup, but what it looks like is that right here you have a spare pump cup if you need it. And this is the pump cup that does all the work. And actually it looks in fairly good shape. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to rejuvenate this while we're pulling the rest of the stove apart and taking a look at it. So let's do that. Now to rejuvenate that pump cup, I'm just going to use some 1540 motor oil. You can use whatever you want. I find that motor oil actually does a lot better on these. It lasts against the heat basically. But what we're going to do is we're just going to get a little oil on there, all over, and then we're just going to let it sit here and soak. Just like that, while we take everything apart. And more than likely, as long as the cup is not ripped, we'll bring it back that way. That's a good way to save it. If not, I have spares that we can throw in there. Okay, so on to the next thing. Now that is out of there, and actually that looks really, I don't know if you can see in there, but it actually looks pretty good. I don't see rust or anything, though we wouldn't if this was brass, but it looks pretty clean down there. Now the next item of contention when getting these things to run is the cap. Quite often these gaskets are very, very worn out, cracked, dried, or all in between. So let's take a look at this and see what we can find out. And look at this cap. Isn't that beautiful? Just the design, the knurling, like they even have a little vent hole, so when you undo the cap, fuel doesn't vent, less likely to vent all over your hands. That is super cool. So let's see if we can get this apart. It doesn't, I don't know, that if there is a gasket in there, it looks pretty hard to my eye. So we'll just take a little pick here and see. Yeah, I don't feel any kind of rubber substance in there, so I'm gonna assume there is no gasket on there, which means this would never seal. So let's see if we can get this apart. Now with these two-piece caps, I find it easier actually to screw them on fairly tight. Don't use any tools with this. We're just going to use our fingers and get a nice screwdriver and see if we can undo this screw. Hopefully, perfect. Hopefully it's not rusted together or stuck together in any sort of terrible way, and it doesn't appear to be so. There's a close-up look of the cap. Pretty clean in there. Yeah. And here is the second part. That's all. Look at that. 1945, and look at the condition this cap is in. Wow. Okay, let's go about putting a new gasket on it. I'm hoping that these are the right ones. I ordered these a while ago. I keep them around for my Coleman stoves. And well, here's to hoping that this is gonna work. So I think the best way to approach this is maybe we'll take just a dab of engine oil to lube these things up. Should be okay. I believe these, I mean, if they're good for white gas, then engine oil shouldn't really hurt it, but I think we just wanna carefully see if we can get this around that edge. I think we got it. Yeah, look at that. That is coming out beautiful. I don't really want to take all the patina away. I just want to clean it up a little bit. Oh, that feels like it's gonna pump, my friends. Okay. Well, I guess let's just get some fuel in it and see what happens. Oops. Ooh. Look at that nice burning flame. 1945. Are you kidding me? Wow. And there we have it. 1945 World War II issue pocket, if you can call it that, stove. How awesome. And I can't believe it still runs and still functions pretty well. You could totally cook on that or really just heat water up on it, to be honest. But it's totally usable in its current condition. I would love to do a restoration on it. I just don't want to lose these instruction decals, even though they're not very good. I don't want to lose them. But if I can find new ones, maybe we'll do that. The other thing I'm missing the wrench up here. If you know where I can get one, leave a comment below or a link. I'd love to make this thing 100% complete, but just how cool is this? This is the prize of my collection so far, to be honest, and I can't believe it runs so well. I think what we'll do in an upcoming video, I'll do some research and figure out how to take it completely apart. We'll clean all the parts up, get it running really well, and then maybe we'll take it out and actually use it to cook something for a day or two or something. That'd be really awesome. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Subscribe for more content. Like the video if you liked it. And, well, we'll see you in the next video.